Well, good afternoon, everybody. Sitting around the table here, we've got a group of individuals who are looking to maybe talk a little bit about agriculture and some of the different sides that we've seen pertaining to it. So, once again, I'm Chandler, serving this year as state president.
I'm Grace Long, your state reporter.
I'm Hope Brett, the Southeast State Vice President.
And I'm Shelby Westoff, your Northeast State Vice President.
So, to kind of crack open this idea of talking about agriculture, something we want to kind of dive in is where we come from in terms of agriculture and just kind of setting a groundwork.
So I can go ahead and start us off. I am not from a super agriculture connected background. Neither of my parents work in agriculture. My dad's a civil engineer. My mom's a preschool teacher. And I'm 3 generations removed from the farm. My great-grandparents are the last connection I have to agriculture. So joining FFA, becoming interested in agriculture, was a really conscious choice for me. And Hope, I know that's something you can kind of relate to.
Yeah, so like Grace, I don't really have much of an agricultural background. I'm actually several generations removed from the farm. I don't know how many, that's how long it's been. And neither one of my parents work in agriculture, but my grandfather actually does have a grocery store, so I've had a lot of opportunities to see agriculture in the aspect of business instead of what we would look at as more traditional.
Yeah, and I'm a little different than Grace and Hope here, and it's really been cool to talk with them about the different side of agriculture. Back home, I come from a diversified livestock operation where we are dairy farmers, and we also have swine and row crop. So we kind of get a perspective of kind of everything that's out there, so we learn a little bit about each production. And kind of like Chandler, I know. Chandler, what do you all have on your farm again?
So I know I've mentioned it a little bit in the last episode, but in talking about that I come from a sheep and goat operation. So my family and I, we come more from an acreage than I would say maybe a farm, but we have about 20 head of ewes and about 10 head worth of goats, and so that's what I grew up on and working with. So I don't know, you want to call it diversified, you want to call it a hobby farm, whatever, but that's kind of what allows me to be me. You know, I guess for me being a type A person, I do feel like, okay, if I do go into like agricultural education, like what my major is right now, like, shoot, I have to be really well versed in a lot of different areas. And obviously, you know, if you're around an ag teacher, that's you, jack of all, maybe master of none, or at least I feel that's how I would be anyway as an ag teacher, as someone in that profession. But you almost feel that responsibility of like, okay, I have to keep edging things forward, but maybe that's just me.
I think I agree with that too, because agriculture is always a growing industry, and there's always something new to learn. Speaking of new things to learn, I've learned a lot from Grace about her bees, and I really never thought of agriculture beyond the sows, plows. I never really thought about anything different, but when I started learning about bees, or I learned about like aquaponics, there's so much more. It's just we got to dive in and learn about it.
Would you say that us as FFA members have an opportunity to get a perspective on, you know, you two are sitting across the table from each other right now, but like in a literal sense, being able to sit across the table from others and saying, I want to hear your perspective.
Oh yeah, I can't count the amount of times that I've sat down and like talked with members and I've heard about all their cool SAEs. I know one time I heard someone has a guinea pig farm or operation that they have for their SAE, and I just think that's so cool because of how different it looks and all the opportunities that are out there.
I always made the joke I wanted a guinea pig confinement.
But yeah, it's real.
And then I've heard, like, I talked to somebody one time who has an alligator farm. Somebody farms worms and then sells the compost.
I've heard that.
Which is so cool. As a bee person, I relate to anybody with insects. So when you were talking about the cricket farm, I was like, oh my gosh, that is so cool. So there's tons of variety out there. And even you get into like the landscaping and having your own custom baling business or like mowing and yard business. So cool.
I think our conversation, and it's awesome that it has, but our conversation's kind of steered towards the new developing things that are coming on the cusps of agriculture. But I guess turning our attention back towards that quote-unquote traditional side of things, how have we gotten better there? What? And obviously I'm going to probably put a little bit of pressure on Shelby here.
Good, I was hoping so.
The pressure falls on me some too, but how have we gotten better when it comes to the traditional side of things, I guess?
I think I looked really towards precision agriculture. I think about going back to even when like I was younger, when they're out in the fields planting, you just kind of saw them driving around like they were doing the driving. It wasn't, whereas now when my dad's out there, he's got that computer and that GPS working, and yes, he'll do the turnarounds when he's planting corn or anything else, but that GPS is working to direct right where he's going, and that precision agriculture is really helping out where our agriculture is going.
Like, there's hot phrases that you can say, and that goes into any industry, but one is that if you want to do something, chances are that there's an involvement that you could do in agriculture. I mean, for someone that didn't know, well, I guess what do we mean by that? You know, it's a fun thing to say, but actually, like, kind of digging into it, what does that really mean?
So the way I'm kind of interpreting that is, so as someone who does not come from a traditional ag background at all, I didn't think I had any ties to agriculture. And, you know, I joined FFA and I started learning more. And I was like, well, I can't have a supervised agricultural experience because I have nothing to do with agriculture. But then it took someone to say, Hope, you work at a grocery store. There's food all around you. Hope, you have an agricultural experience. Like, you have a tie to agriculture. And seeing that really anyone can have a tie to the agriculture, I think that's a huge thing coming into it as someone who's not from that.
And I think it's about realizing, like, what Hope did. When I talk with fellow members a lot, sitting around a table, they say, Shelby, well, you come from that diversified farm, you have that tie. And then talking with them, just like that, working at a grocery store, working at Subway, serving food anywhere, like right there, direct tie agriculture. So it's cool.
And I think it's also really important for, no matter if you're a freshman or a senior, when you start thinking about your future in agriculture, the opportunities are endless because you get these printed off lists of all the majors at the colleges when you're trying to decide where you're going to go. And chances are you can add agriculture to whatever that major may be. Ag business. I particularly am going into ag law. There's a lot of flexibility with, you have this interest, well, let's pair it with agriculture and see what you can do. So as you go into the future, that's a huge opportunity.
And I do like that Grace brought up that point. Going into my freshman year, my advisor would be like, so are you gonna go into an ag career? And I'm like, what? No, like, that's farming, isn't it? I can't do that. But going through that list of majors and things like that Grace brought up, it is crazy. You can tack ag onto anything that you want to do, and which I think is also a really awesome opportunity for even more like non-traditional backgrounds.
If you've been watching the news at all, you know that agriculture's kind of been in the hot seat, and it's, you know, not all that uncommon that we do find ourselves there. But what would you say to somebody about, you know, if they are concerned about what we're dealing with agriculture right now?
I think one thing to always know is to get your facts, and get your facts from a reliable source. So many times we look out in not in the media, but everywhere, and we see this something that's not true, and we see the misconception. And if we really dig and find those true facts, then we're enlightened to know that agriculture is amazing, and let's see where we can fit in.
And to kind of piggyback off of Shelby's point, I talked earlier about how technology offers us endless opportunities for improvement and for learning and for getting that information. But at the same time, we also have to remember that, like you were saying, it facilitates the spreading of incorrect information as well. So in this digital world we're so used to living in, it's really important for us to remember to make genuine connections with where our food comes from and look at producers, learn from those producers instead of a secondhand source. Because it's kind of like a giant game of telephone. If you're talking to someone face to face, it's really easy to understand the story, understand their message. But as we go through all the links of this Facebook post, this tweet, this article, whatever, the message gets distorted. And we have to be really mindful of how that chain works in agriculture, especially because we tend to get thrown under the bus, but really in anything.
And with those connections and that game of telephone that Grace brought up, I think it's also important for us to remember that our farmers and agriculturalists, they are doing their best to do their jobs. And they have some pretty difficult tasks that not a lot of people are willing to do. And I think it's important to just remember that they are doing their best.
Agriculture community to communicate to the public what they're doing And I think we've come a long way in the past
Mhm.
few years. But as a future communications major, it's scientists and agriculturalists have the hardest time communicating just because there's so much technical jargon and it's so different from mainstream. So we really need advocates for agriculturalists that can bridge that gap.
And I think that's a job of us as FFA members is to be those agriculturists that spread the word and to let everybody know what's going on and to be the light for agriculture.
And I'll throw my hat in the ring here and that too. And everyone is exactly right in what they've said. And I guess just the perspective of what we're carrying right now as a load for an agricultural community is like anything in life, there's going to be dips and dives, and there's going to be high moments as well. And that's just a perspective I would encourage anybody to carry is that, okay, if you want to put it in perspective, maybe things are grim now, but it doesn't mean that they're always going to be that way. And that you have to understand that, people do carry the best interests and they are going to do their best job to, service the entire world, because that's what we do as agriculturalists. So I want to send a huge thank you to you three taking time out of your busy day, coming in and talking and really kind of digging deep into agriculture and what we understand of it. And I appreciate all of you in listening. And if there's a topic that you want us to discuss, something that you would want to hear, please let us know. Send us a direct message on our social media platforms. Leave a comment down below. We do really appreciate it. Thank you all so much for listening, and thank you all once again for coming in and talking.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.